Hello everyone, welcome to Elite Weather. My name is Mr. G with your weather forecast, and we are having a live look outside right now of my home city here in Minneapolis and St. Paul. I live in the city of St. Paul, and we're looking at downtown St. Paul right here in the foreground. That is I-94 right there as it heads off towards Minneapolis that you can see back there in the background. So we're going to be expecting some clouds to roll in here. It's starting to cloud up now, as you can see in the sky back there. We're starting to see those clouds increase right now, and we're expecting to pick up some rain this afternoon and some thunder as well. So some thunderstorms are going to be a possibility out there, and that could mix with some snow, so some rain, snow, and we're looking at about a good inch and a quarter of rain as we head into the evening hours tonight. And again, tomorrow more rain and thunderstorms are going to be likely, but in the evening hours we're going to see that rain convert over to snow about 10 o'clock tomorrow night, and we could pick up about 6 inches of snow for the nighttime hours for Tuesday. It'll start all roll out of here on Saturday morning, and as we await the arrival of the next storm when we head into Monday, and I think that storm is going to be more rainfall than snow for us here in the Twin Cities. But let's talk about that weather forecast that the rest of you are seeing across the United States this afternoon and into the weekend. So I hope you guys are all having a great day today and you had a great week. If you like this video forecast and if you get value out of it, leave your likes. Feel free to comment and let me know what you think and what kind of weather you're experiencing, and leave a subscription for this channel, okay? So you can be in the know and get notified whenever I post another video, which I try to do every single day of the week. Sometimes you might get 2 videos a day, depending on how active things is and how my work schedule and school schedule allows me the time. So let's jump into our weather forecast right now, take a look at our maps and look at everything that's going on. And again, thanks for watching me. Leave your likes, comments, and subscribe. All right, as we dig into that weather forecast, let's take a look at our first map, which is going to be our surface features right now. And if you're looking at the eastern United States, we're seeing predominantly high pressure and control. We do have a weak front that's draped across the mid-south there, but we are seeing mostly dry weather across the eastern U.S. There is a few isolated snow showers across parts of southern Canada and into the northeast as well. It's also quite blustery across the northeast, a little bit on the chilly side, and quite windy as well across the northeastern U.S. Across the central and northern plains, we're getting a little bit of warm air advection as we have a big storm developing down across the southwestern U.S. that's going to move into the plain states, but we're seeing that warm air advect to the north coming up from the south, and it's interacting with cold air that's in the area across the upper Midwest and Minnesota and into parts of Iowa, and it's sparking some showers out there. So we're seeing some showers down near the Iowa and Minnesota border, and a band of snow across central and northern Minnesota, but that's going to be very light and very little accumulation is going to be expected out there. But here coming from the west is the main energy from our big storm that's going to be moving up out of the southwest. So we're seeing those snow showers across the central and northern Rockies today, and that is going to continue and expand as it heads toward the northern plains and the Great Lakes area as we move into your Friday as well as into the weekend. So let's talk about our current surface radar right now. We're seeing that snow across the Rockies, and we're seeing our rain and snow area across parts of Minnesota and Iowa. Dry everywhere else. We're seeing a lot of dry weather down along the Gulf Coast and the southeast. So a very nice day for you folks today. A nice day across most of the Midwest, with the exception of that little bit of precipitation across the upper Midwest and parts of the Great Lakes. We do have a few specks of snow showers out there and a few snow showers across the northeast. But for the most part, things are going to be dry today, but cold over there once again. Let's take a look now at our satellite. We're seeing our big storm out over the west starting to gather itself back up together here as it moves out into the plains. It will eventually begin to affect some of that Gulf of Mexico moisture. We have plenty of cold air to the north over the northern plains, the Rockies. We're having that cold air down off of the mountains. So it's going to have a lot of ingredients to work with for that storm to develop, and where we can pick up some of that severe weather and also that heavy snow that we're going to be seeing across parts of the Midwest as well. Here's our current surface temperatures. We're seeing those temperatures in the south coming to the 60s and into the lower 70s. So we're seeing some 60s to lower 70s down to the south, and we're seeing it kind of cold up in the north. We're seeing those temperatures in the 30s in the northwest. We're also seeing 30s in the Great Lakes, and we're looking at a bunch of 30s across the northern plains and 20s and 30s across the Rockies. Down across the southwestern United States, we're seeing those temperatures in the 40s and 50s and in the 60s down across the southwestern deserts. A little bit cool for this time of the year for those areas. So as they are in the wake of that big storm and they're in that pool of cold air that is following behind our big area of low pressure that is going to move out into the southern plains tomorrow and eventually make its way toward the upper Midwest, toward the Great Lakes, where we're going to be seeing that severe weather outbreak across the Midwest as well tomorrow. So let's take a look at our dew points. This is an important aspect to look at. We're seeing those dew points start to rise down here along the Texas coast and the Gulf Coast. We're starting to see those dew point temperatures in the lower 70s down there near Brownsville, Texas. Look at that. And we're going to be seeing those dew points increase as we head up to the north. So as we make our way through the remainder of the day and into tomorrow, we're going to see those dew points reach the 60s across the plain states and the parts of the upper Midwest as well. We might see those dew point temperatures hit the 50s and 60s, and we're going to see those dew points expand down across the southeast and the Gulf Coast as well. We're going to see those dew points rise into the 60s and lower 70s, and that's going to be the fuel for some of those big thunderstorms that we could see in our potential thunderstorm outbreak as we head into Friday and into early Saturday. Here is a look at our wind speeds right now. That is going to be another focus for this storm, is the increase in wind. So we're seeing those winds start to come up out of the southwest out ahead of our area of low pressure. Our low is going to be centered right about there before it heads out into the plains. So we're seeing those winds in the 30s through parts of Colorado. We're seeing those winds about 35 miles an hour coming up from the south. Now in the northeast, those winds are coming from the northwest because we have an area of low pressure toward the northeast there, moving over New Brunswick, Canada, and Nova Scotia, and we have high pressure over the plains, and that's going to be making that strong northwest flow as it flows from those two systems combined together, and you have what's called a barclinic zone. So we're going to be seeing those high winds continue across the northeast, and we're seeing those winds in the 20 to 30 miles per hour range over there. That will begin to dissipate as we move out through the day, and that low moves further away, and that high pressure expands across the northeast, and that area of barclinic activity will sort of flatten out a little bit there as that high pressure moves further into place. Here is our first map that we're going to look at, the scenario that we're going to be seeing tomorrow with our big storm across the Midwest. Now, our area of low pressure here, this is going to be what's called a Colorado low. That guy is going to come up from southern Colorado and New Mexico. It's going to quickly ride up toward the northeast to the upper Midwest. We're going to be seeing it just about Iowa, Nebraska, and the southern southwest corner of Minnesota, South Dakota. And that is going to bring up a lot of warm air from the south. We're going to be seeing a lot of moisture riding up along our cold front right here. And that cold front is going to be the focus for some very big thunderstorms. Large hail down in Texas and Oklahoma could be possible. We're talking about some gorilla hail, very gusty winds. We're going to be seeing very strong winds. The winds could hit 70 miles per hour. And there's going to be a lot of wind blowing across the plains as we have a strong area of low pressure and high pressure down to the south over the Gulf of Mexico. And that combination of that high pressure and that air flowing towards that low, we're going to be seeing those very strong winds blowing up from the south is called warm air advection or return flow. So on the backside of our high pressure, we have that air coming back around, and that air will warm as it heads to the north, and will also tap in to Gulf of Mexico moisture, and that moisture will lift up across the Gulf Coast, through the south, and through parts of the Midwest as well. So we're going to be seeing that tropical moisture affect its way all the way up to near the Great Lakes. We're going to be seeing that moisture up through Iowa, through Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio as well. We're going to be seeing the possibility of our thunderstorms. You can see the warm front in place here. That's that leading edge of that very warm air coming in from the south. That's where you get a warm front. We have cold air to the north of that warm front. That warm air is advancing on that cold air. That cold air is retreating backwards. As you can see, our warm front will be in place tomorrow. We will see a line of thunderstorms and showers along our warm front, but we're going to see the severe thunderstorms along our cold front. So that is going to be a very important thing. We have our what's called a triple point right here, and this is where we could be seeing some really severe thunderstorms tomorrow and see some tornadoes possibly. So we could see some tornadoes across the upper Midwest on Friday, so through Missouri, parts of Iowa potentially, and down that 35 corridor towards Dallas and Dallas-Fort Worth. We're going to be seeing those thunderstorms along that cold front. We'll have a dry line over West Texas, and that dry line also will be another focus for thunderstorms. And these thunderstorms will be more isolated. These will be low precipitation, elevated thunderstorms down to the south over central and southern Texas along the dry line. These dry line storms are particularly dangerous and can produce very large tornadoes. We're talking, this is your F2, F3 tornadoes. The gorilla hail could be possible. These are the baseball and softball size hail potentially down across central and north Texas. So we could be seeing that as a possibility as Friday as well. Heavy rain will also be an issue, especially down across the south. Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas, Kentucky, Tennessee, the Appalachian Mountain Range. We could see very heavy rain through the Tennessee and the Ohio Valley as well. Chicago southward, Kansas City, St. Louis, down to Memphis. Could see some very heavy rainfall. We could pick up as much as 4 inches of rain. Those thunderstorms will also be severe as well. Tornadoes will be a factor even down in those areas as well. Some hail. We won't see gorilla hail in those regions, but you will see some hail, lots of hail, maybe some marble size, nickel and dime size hail could occur. Some very heavy winds. We can see those 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts. So a very sticky situation. Lots of moisture in the air, lots of humidity. That cold air will be sharp on the backside of that front and the low pressure, and then we have the snow up across the northern plains, the Rockies, the upper Midwest, Minnesota, Wisconsin, the upper peninsula of Michigan, North and South Dakota, Wyoming, and Montana is going to pick up that snow. Nebraska is going to pick up some snow as well from this latest Colorado low that's going to be affecting the upper Midwest. Next week we'll have another one, but another thing that we're going to be seeing Friday night through Saturday, as we have that barclinic zone between a retreating area of low pressure and advancing area of high pressure. We have a ridge that is moving into the northwest, high on the heels of our retreating low that brought that blast of snow yesterday. Behind that front is these strong gusty winds. And we're going to be seeing those very strong winds hit the potential for 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts through parts of the mid-Atlantic states. So Ohio, Illinois, and Indiana is a little bit plains there. It gets a little bit hillier through parts of Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee. We're going to be seeing 70-mile-an-hour winds below the canes and passes of the Appalachian Mountain Range. So through cold country, we're going to be seeing very strong winds as we see this transient system make its way through the Northeast. Now, this will not last long. these winds will die down by the time we get to Sunday. High pressure will build in, things will calm down for a day or two as you await the arrival and the potential for severe weather in your area. But here's a look at the severe weather we're going to be seeing across the upper Midwest tomorrow. Now, I have to say this, and forgive me if this is a long video, because this is important. There's a lot going on with this storm. So, this is really early. I cannot focus on how early this is for this time of the year for this to be this far to the north. This should be down along the Gulf Coast. We should see this in Oklahoma, Texas, yes, this time of the year. Maybe through parts of Arkansas, Kansas, Tennessee, Kansas, and maybe Nebraska. But to see it through Illinois and the Midwest and Indiana and Illinois, Chicago area, Michigan, Pennsylvania, West Virginia. Look at that. We're seeing that severe weather. Wisconsin, Minnesota, southeastern Minnesota. Severe weather could be possible as we head through Friday and Friday night. You're really going to see that outbreak here across parts of western Illinois, southeastern Iowa, eastern Missouri, northeastern Arkansas, northern Louisiana, Mississippi, western Kentucky, western Tennessee, southern Indiana, southern Ohio, southern Illinois. So about 20 states are going to experience some severe weather Friday and into Saturday. 20 states are going to deal with severe weather. Here's what the problems are going to be. We have that very strong area of low pressure, powerful low, very deep area of low pressure. We have a very strong cold front, a warm front, lots of cold air across the upper Midwest and across the northern plains. Lots of cold air up in Canada that's going to filter down behind that low. Lots of warm, moist air being pulled up along the Gulf Coast from the south. We have high pressure over the southeast. That high pressure is helping to pump and funnel that cold air into that warm air into our area of low pressure. And that ingredients together, lots of moisture, lots of wind shear, because you have southeast winds coming up at the surface from our area of high pressure with southwest winds at about 10,000 feet. So you have wind shear. That is going to be wind changing direction with height. So that is going to give a spin in the atmosphere. And that's going to be how we're going to get tornadoes. So we're going to see a lot of tornadoes potentially. Look at that. As far north as Iowa. Tornadoes this time of the year. Torrential rainfall. Very large hail. All right. Damaging winds. 70 to 80 mile an hour winds, because a derecho could happen as well. I wouldn't be surprised to see a derecho through parts of this region right here from Iowa down through Missouri and northeastern Arkansas. Possible derecho setup could occur. So that is going to be a straight line wind event, and those things can have winds hit 100 miles an hour. So, which is, again, let me reiterate how rare this is. Very rare to see the possibility of a derecho in the end of March. Derechos don't typically hit the upper Midwest until July. About July 4th is when we typically can start to see derechos in the upper Midwest. So to see them this time of the year, this early, is unusual. So that's not a good sign. So I'm not pleased with that. So I'm going to be probably going to do a live tomorrow as this severe weather, and I will do it on TikTok and YouTube as we track this severe weather event tomorrow, because I think it's going to be huge, big severe weather event. So I'm really trying to make you understand that this could be quite dangerous tomorrow. All right, so now after we get done with the severe weather across the plains in the Midwest tomorrow, then that shifts to the east. Now we're going to start to see the potential for severe weather with only isolated tornadoes, large hail, damaging winds, and those winds can still gusts up to 70 miles an hour. So 70-mile-an-hour winds from severe thunderstorms, severe potential from mid-state New York all the way down to Virginia. So the entire mid-Atlantic states, I-95 corridor, south of Boston, New York City, Philadelphia, Washington, Richmond, Virginia, down to Charlotte, can see that potential for a severe thunderstorm tomorrow. Very heavy rain that could be possible, some hail, damaging winds, and those tornadoes, as I said a moment ago. All right, so we have another storm that we're going to worry about early next week. The same scenario, almost identical. This storm's brother. Okay, these two guys. What a time. Look at that pool of cold air coming in out of the Rockies. A lot of cold air coming down from the north through the Rockies on the backside. A highly charged jet stream. The troughing out toward the west. Very strong jet stream. High amplitude jet going to the north into Canada. So we got a high amplitude jet. Lots of moisture coming up from the Gulf Coast. Lots of warmth as well. So we're going to see a huge surge of warmth into the northeast. Temperatures will be in the 70s in the northeast. 70s could reach the Boston area as we head to early next week. So very warm, very humid, lots of moisture. That severe storm potential could fire off right here again. Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Indiana, Illinois, Iowa, Missouri, Kentucky, Tennessee, Arkansas. Severe weather potential. I'll have more details as this storm hasn't even made it onto the U.S. coast yet. When this storm drops down off of the Pacific and it moves on shore, and it moves out into the Rockies and into the Southern Plains, more details will become available. It will become more clear. Right now, we got some model discrepancy in timing and some position of a few pieces. But again, this is going to be quite a spring. I'm being serious. This is going to be a bad spring, a really bad spring, summer. I think that it's going to be rough for the plains, the northern plains, the Dakotas, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, Michigan, Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. It's going to be a long summer, a very long summer. Lots of thunder, tornadoes. It's going to be interesting to see a developing El Nino as well. So, yeah, it's just going to be that potential for some really interesting stuff as we head through spring and into summer. And I'll be anxious to see how it all plans out. We have a very, very active pattern. If that active pattern continues, because I don't see any change in the patterns when I look far out in the models, in the GFS, or in the ensembles, I don't see any change in the pattern. I'm seeing storm after storm coming onto the West Coast, dropping down the trough, hitting the Southern Plains, and shooting out across the plains into the Great Lakes and towards Southern Canada. That's storm after storm after storm after storm. The next 3 storms could do that potentially that I'm seeing in the long-range model ensembles. So, yeah, if that continues, it could be kind of scary. It's going to be kind of interesting. So I'm going to work my best to make sure everybody's safe and that information is out there. So here it is with our outlook for this week, for the end of this week. All right, I'm going to stand over here so you can see. And here's our pattern. Look at that. You see all that cold up here across the north, Canada, Minnesota, the Dakotas, the mountains. See the Rockies here? Montana, Wyoming, Idaho, Colorado. Even down through New Mexico and Arizona to see snow still. There it is. The cold air across the north, our humid and moist air down to the south. So the Midwest down to the Southern Plains. A lot of moisture coming up and a lot of warmth as well. We're going to be seeing temperatures in the 80s and 90s down across the southeast as we head into next week. 90s in Jacksonville, Atlanta, upper 80s, lower 90s. We might even see some 80s start to reach the northeast, the DC area at least. We might see some upper 70s, maybe some lower 80s as we head into next week. Again, here's our snow situation Thursday night through Saturday. We're going to be seeing that snow as our low pressure tracks toward the northeast slightly into the northeastern Great Lakes. We're going to be seeing that snow Minneapolis, Fargo, Rapid City, Sioux Falls, uh, Green Bay. We're going to be seeing that snow. Marquette, Sault Ste. Marie. So upper northern Michigan, the upper peninsula, northern Wisconsin, Minnesota, the Dakotas, northern Nebraska, and parts of Wyoming and Michigan. Not Michigan, but Montana could see that heavy snow. Slippery surfaces. Now, here's the thing about this snow. This snow will be heavy. It will be wet because it's warmer. The temperatures are right on that borderline for freezing. So they are right on that borderline for freezing. It's right on the edge. Another 2 degrees, it would be all rain. Easily that much. So it's not that cold where that snow is going to be drier, have a lower moisture content. When temperatures are warmer, the snow tend to have a higher water content in it. So the snow is going to be slushy. So we're going to pick up 6 inches of slushy snow across the upper Midwest, Minnesota, the Twin Cities. Slushy snow. We're going to pick up about 6 inches, maybe 7. But I wouldn't be surprised to only see 3 or 4 inches on the ground because it's going to be that close that half of it is going to melt on contact with the surface. So we're going to see instantaneous melting. And most of the snow that falls this weekend will probably melt by Tuesday of next week before our next storm comes in to bring in mostly rain. Now, there will be snow across northern Minnesota and the Dakotas, but in the Twin Cities, we're going to see all rain mostly with that event. There might be a flake or so at the very end. But again, we're coming into where things are warming because of the sun angles. The high sun angles, even if the temperature is below freezing, the high sun angles right now, as we come into spring, as we just crossed into spring a few days ago, it's going to make that snow melt even through cloud cover. So through cloud cover, the snow can melt just because of the strong angle that the sun's radiation is hitting the Earth's surface at. So we will see a lot of snow melt, and that's also going to make a problem with flooding across Minnesota and Iowa and Wisconsin and Illinois. We're going to see a lot of flooding across the Midwest, and it could lead to some bad flooding problems down the line in the Mississippi River because of the snow. We've had nearly 83 inches of snow. This is one of the, I think it's the 7th or 8th snowiest winter on record here in the Twin Cities. So we are going to see that snow melt. Hopefully the temperature doesn't warm too rapidly. Right now it's been okay, and it's been a very slow melt. It could be a little slower, but it's been a relatively slow melt. Maybe the rivers can absorb it and handle the runoff in the creeks and any of our watershed things out there that handles and run any creeks, any basins, or anything that we can run off water from snowmelt. Maybe it will be slow enough that they can handle it. But if it hits the 60s and the 70s suddenly, that could be bad news because that will cause the snow to melt rapidly. And what is nice about snow on the ground, the snow on the ground reflects the sunlight, so that will cause for a slower melt. So we're not being able, the air above the snow is not being able to warm quickly. The energy is being reflected back out by all the snow on the ground. So that is a good thing. See, this is why as a meteorologist, when you're in college, you have to take physics as well and chemistry. That's important in your degree. So, all right. So we're about to wrap this up here. Here's the snowfall totals we're looking at across the upper Midwest and the northern plains today. We are looking at 6 to 12 inches across parts of western Minnesota and parts of South Dakota, and then northern Wisconsin, and to Michigan and Ontario, Canada, we are looking at about 8 inches of snow. Here in the Twin Cities, we're looking at 6 inches of snow possible. And then further to the south, where the light blue is, we're going to see 1 to 3 inches of snow. So here again is our snow potential for early next week, maybe Tuesday. Snow, here is the Twin Cities. Minneapolis is right there. We're right on the edge. I kind of think that this is going to be bumping back to the north a little bit. I think that snow line is going to move a little bit further to the north and west. I don't think this is going to hold for that, but we are going to see our next Colorado low have a little bit. And I think my reasoning behind that is because this low has a little bit more of a northerly track. And I think our B formation band will get bumped a little bit further to the north and west. So I think we'll see the possibility of more rainfall. Freezing rain might be possible as well early next week, and I hate freezing rain. Dang, it's the worst thing. I hate freezing rain more than anything. You can hit me with 50 inches of snow. I don't care. But the freezing rain is a bastard. So, anyway, so strong winds also is going to happen as well. We're going to see those strong winds move into parts of the we are going to be seeing those strong winds move into parts of the Midwest as well ahead of our next storm. We're going to be seeing winds up to 50 to 60 miles an hour, maybe some 70-mile-an-hour gusts there through parts of Arkansas and Oklahoma and Kansas. So we're going to be seeing those high winds associated with our pressure gradient, with our advancing low pressure and a retreating area of high pressure. And those two combined, that air flowing from high to low, is going to lead to some very strong winds that could peak at 70 miles per hour. So as we wrap this up, everybody, again, this is a long weather forecast. Here's our weekend outlook. And I'm going to step off camera here so you can take a look at that map and really see what's going on. And you see how it's going to warm up across the Southwest. Things will improve across the southwestern United States. It will remain wet across the east and the southeast. Our frontal boundary that we're dealing with, our current storm, will make it that way as we head on through the remainder of the week and into the weekend. We're going to be seeing those showers and thunderstorms moving to the northeast and spread down the mid-Atlantic to the southeast, Florida, and the Gulf Coast eventually. Drying out west, we'll start to see the next winter storm start to hit the Pacific Northwest. But look at it, dries and warms up across the Southwest over the weekend. So my name is Mr. G. That is your weather forecast. A lot to contend with there, a lot to unpack in that forecast. So apologies for the long video. If you're a brave soul and you made your way through, hopefully you got some valuable information and you learned a couple things about the weather here. So thanks for watching. Leave your likes, comments, and subscribe. Again, my name is Mr. G, and this is Elite Weather. Bye-bye. Thanks.